This past weekend, I finally got the chance to shoot in the rain at night in New York City. When I travel into New York City for street photography, I typically go alone just because, you know, I'm an hour and a half outside of the city, it's a lot, I don't have friends. It's okay. But this time I figured I'd reach out to one of my favorite New York City photographers, ohmnivalent, and see if he'd be down for some duos. And sure enough, he was. In talking, we've decided the more the merrier, so he actually went ahead and reached out to his friend Esau and invited him for the ride. And that's when we got to shooting.
What's up, guys?
Hey, what's up, man?
Will.
Carlos.
Nice to meet you guys.
Carlos.
Nice to meet you.
Here are the 3 things I learned from this night shooting with ohmnivalent and Esau. Number 1, expose for highlights. In the past, I've typically exposed for shadows, and naturally, when you do that, you completely demolish your highlights. You can't even save them in post because they're just so gone. So on this night, I said, no more. I'm going to expose for highlights, and I did, and I'll tell you, it makes all the difference in post-production. The highlights are mwah, beautiful, they're preserved, and the shadows can actually be recovered much easier than the highlights ever could. You just have to be careful with the shadows and the blacks to avoid or minimize noise that appears, but if noise does appear, there is that noise slider that you just finesse as needed. Number 2 is don't be afraid of using a high ISO, and bonus, don't be afraid of using a slower aperture. See, me, I'm guilty, I'm so guilty of this. I have refused to shoot at an ISO above 1,000. I'll do it sometimes, but most of the times I'm at 800 or lower. The noise monster just scares me. But I'll tell you what, as I said in the previous point, if you use high ISO and expose for highlights, you can actually recover a lot of those shadows without much noise appearing. The second part, using a slower aperture. At night, you might be inclined to open it all the way up 1.4. ohmnivalent taught me this. If you actually use a bit slower of an aperture, 2, 2.5, 2.8, yes, less light is coming into the lens, but you're also keeping those nice, sharp, crisp edges around your subject and in the environment. So don't be afraid of using a slower aperture, high ISO. And number 3 is take your time. In the past, I was like a golden retriever that was untrained. I'd be running from corner to corner, just all over the place. I would not sit in a spot for longer than a minute because, let's call it FOMO. But on this night, ohmnivalent and Esau and myself, we stood on corners for 15-20 minutes at a time, waiting, fishing, allowing things to happen and unfold in front of us, and we just captured it, baby. And the reason why this is such a great takeaway is because when you're sitting in a location for 10, 15, 20 minutes or longer, you're forced to look at the environment differently. You have to start playing with things in the environment, you gotta start repositioning yourself, kind of, you know, it just really forces you to get those creative juices flowing, and that's what it's all about.
Oh yes!
Alright, so that's it for this video. I hope you learned something. If you did, please hit the like button, subscribe to see more videos like this, and if you have any questions about my shooting process or editing process, hit the comment section below, and check the description box too. Down there I have a full list of my gear, and I also have links to ohmnivalent's and Esau's Instagram accounts, who you should follow. They're pretty cool. Alright, till the next one. Love ya.